Hey everybody, it's Max McAllister here today. I guess it's been a while since I've been riled up, so this will be one of those good riled up videos. Maybe I might even have to put explicit lyrics at the top of it. Those seem to get a lot of mileage. Anyway, I probably am going to title a handful of videos over time, something like Myth MaxBusters or something. I don't want to steal MythBusters' proprietary name, but basically need to bust stupid, ridiculous myths that are perpetuated, started by a handful of who knows who, and then they take hold on the internet, and then they just become ridiculous trash that leave people mystified, scared, and unknowing what to do. So today's Myth MaxBuster is going to be about air filters, and again, a big part of my channel watchers are Honda Goldwing owners, but this applies to just any motorcycle you've got. Hell, your car for that matter. It really don't matter. So I did a video where I talked about, I'll try and put a link here, but I'm sure you can find it on my channel, where I talked about Honda's recommended service interval of 16,000 miles for the changing the air filter on the Honda Goldwing. The problem is, for an ordinary owner, unless you're a highly skilled mechanic, you shouldn't even be attempting it. But even if you are a highly skilled mechanic, it's hours of labor. And if you go to a dealership, are you going to get the master tech? Is he going to treat that bike like it's his? All the things you worry about. Your bike has to be extensively torn apart to change the air filter. And, every time you extensively tear your bike apart and put it together, there's just going to be one thing that gets stripped, one thing gets cracked, something isn't, it's just slowly over time. It's not good for it. So changing the air filter, if you had your bike, 160,000 miles, you're talking 10 air filter changes. That's absolutely absurd. So I showed 3 air filters, and I still have them here because I didn't throw them out. And the point was, one of these 3 air filters has 16,000 miles on it. No, 32,000 miles. One has 50,000 miles on it, and another one of them has 76,000 miles on it. I am certain that you cannot look at those 3 air filters and tell me which one has 32,000, which one has 50,000, and which one has 76,000 miles on it. You can't do it. I know you can't, so don't bother. Now, this is where we get to the stupid myth part. So I took one, cut it apart, because I wanted to see the back side of the paper filter element. I want to see what was getting passed through the filter onto filter media and onto the backside. Well, the first thing you need is a fucking engineer, some guy with his, here's my knowledge that some institution says I have, to just take common sense and empirical evidence, factual evidence you can look at with your eyes, and tell you why it's all not accurate, and it's all completely wrong. So there's jagoffs that say the only way you would ever know is this has to go to a laboratory. They've got to build a custom box. They have to do a vacuum pull test through it to determine if it's, what particles are getting through this. Fuck no, you don't. It's just absolute, total bullshit nonsense. Those people have no idea what they're talking about. And worse, they don't have any idea how a motorcycle engine actually works at all. And so they're negating all kinds of things. So inside the air box of your motorcycle, there's the air side, and then there's the intake side of it. So the post-filtered side of it. Your motorcycle is actually, all of them, since I've been alive, has a way that fumes from your crankcase, where your crank is spinning and churning and foaming and just making all kinds of oil vapor fly everywhere. They used to send that out into the environment. Well, the government didn't want that, so now there's a tube that goes from your crankcase up to your air box, and those crankcase ventilation fumes and oil vapors and all that stuff are all sucked right back through the intake and burnt. So they come into your air box. So when you take your air box lid off, take your air filter off, and you see an oily residue all around the inside of the air box, that's one of the two places that that comes from. Now, no one even talks about that, but because they don't know what the fuck they're talking about, and they're just saying stupid shit to you that they don't understand at all. So if dirt was getting past your air filter, real actual dirt that would damage your engine in any way at all, the fucking air box is covered with an oily residue. Would people say, oh no, well, you wouldn't see the dirt that got past the air filter because it'll just go in the engine? No, it won't. It's going to stick all over the walls of the air box. You'll just look at it. You can wipe it with a white towel and find dirt. Then you'd know your air filter was failing you in some way. But you're never going to find that because they don't, that's not how they work. They stop the dirt. It's not coming past it. Honda does a first-class job of sealing that air filter element top and bottom. It's never going to be a problem. So that's one thing. Now, the next thing, people have no idea at all about how engines work. And this is, another reason that just some dumbass, he reads in a book somewhere or sees one test and now he knows everything he needs to know. I'm sure you're going to imagine that when you open the throttle on your engine, you're just going to pull air through the intake system into the engine. And that is true. That's what's happening. What you don't know, and what less than 1 out of 100,000 people that are going to watch this video know, is that that air isn't actually just moving in a line like water pouring through a tube. It's actually pulsing inside of the air box like a conga line. So if you had particles of air, the particles of air are moving like a conga line. Now, why is that, you ask? Why would they do that? Why aren't the air particles just moving in the engine? Well, there's a thing that none of you know about that happens in an engine. It's called valve overlap. So in a 4-cycle engine, the cylinder, there is a point in time when the exhaust valves are open, the pistons come into top dead center, discharging the burnt fuel and air mixture in the engine, that the intake valve has already begun to open. So in order to get the engine to run properly, they need to be closing the exhaust valve and opening the intake valve. While that's happening, there's a reverse push of air at the very last second, and I'm not going to time it to the millionth for you, but just know that there's a tiny amount of the charge that goes back up into the intake. Okay? Then the exhaust valve closes. Then the intake valve is opened all the way. The piston crosses top dead center, and it starts drawing air back into the cylinder. So that little charge that went back up, it never makes it out truly out back into the air box, but it's back up in through the intake, and then it gets pulled in. Now, that's just pulsing like that. So there's always some air-fuel mixture that's being pushed forward and back. So again, part of that residue all around the inside of your air box is actually fuel, residue from your fuel. So that air box is its own Venus or its own fly trap. If there's dirt coming past your filter, you will see it. You would know it. So do you see it? No, because it doesn't happen. So tell people, shut up, stop perpetuating lies. It's just stupid. Now, let's talk about what the real problem is here. So people said my test is pointless. We're going to stick with empirical evidence. It wasn't pointless. It's real. They don't know what they're talking about. I do. So we're just going to leave it there. Now, what is it that you're really worried about here? What is the meat and potatoes? What's the problem? I don't want to void my warranty. That's the only thing everybody who's watching this video or riding a Goldwing is all concerned. I don't want to void my warranty. So first of all, look at these 3 air filters. You tell me how Honda is going to tell you who changed their air filter at 16,000 miles and who didn't. It is not possible. Honda's not going to do it. They're not going to spend the money, spend the time. They don't have a lab. Then there's no way to prove that. It's ridiculous to suggest it. So put it out of your fucking mind. It's just stupid. Okay? Next, they can't force you to take your bike to a Honda dealer. It's been that way since, I think, 1975, the Magnuson-Moss Act. They can't force you to put Ford oil in a Ford engine. They can't force you to do, you're allowed to use anything aftermarket on your engine you want to. You're allowed to put it on your motorcycle. You can do your work yourself. They can't force you to take it to a dealer. It's against the law. And they cannot void your warranty because of that. Okay, so let's make that clear, because otherwise K&N air filters wouldn't even exist. Wouldn't even exist. You can take a K&N air filter and hold it up and look straight through it, right through it, broad daylight through it. So it's not stopping dirt from going into your engine, right? That's how you get more power, because there's more air. So it catches some, but it ain't nothing like the stock Honda filter. So if you want more power, use it. But you can put one in there. You can pull into the dealership. It's not voiding your warranty. It's against the law for them to say that. So put that out of your mind. But now here's the real bottom line. What is it you are really, really, really worried about? You don't even know what it is you're worried about. You've just been told you're supposed to be worried. What you would be worried about and what you should be worried about is so much dirt going past your air filter that it actually gets your engine, ingests it, and it actually grinds away at your piston rings and wears your piston rings down to the point where they actually won't create enough compression anymore to start the engine. Now, same thing, you'd have to have wear to your valves, which is way out there past piston ring wear. Your real problem is going to be cylinder and piston ring wear. Okay, modern pistons fit so tightly into perfectly machined bores. It's not like it used to be in the old days. This isn't a 47 panhead Harley. Okay, so your Goldwing is not like that. So what would have to happen is your engine would have to ingest so much dirt that came past the air filter that it wore the piston rings down to the point where the pistons were rattling loose in the engine and it could no longer create enough compression to start the motorcycle and run. That has never happened. Not one time in the history of the Honda motorcycle has a motorcycle with a stock Honda air filter in it worn all the way out to the point where it had no compression and couldn't start. That is the warranty claim that you're afraid of. It has never happened. Never in 50 years of Goldwings has even one Goldwing ridden hundreds of thousands of miles failed to start because the air filter let dirt past it and wore the engine out to the point where it had no compression. That's the myth. It has never happened and it never will. Stop fucking worrying about it. It's not a problem. It doesn't exist. Okay? So, first myth busted. Don't worry about it. All right? Ride your motorcycle. Change it when it's appropriate or convenient. All right? Do what's prudent. Don't lose a minute of sleep about it. And don't spend money unnecessarily. Okay? So, the internet makes me insane. The shit I have to read on my channel from dumbasses who have not a clue in the universe trying to educate me makes me lose my mind sometimes. My name's Max. Give this video a thumbs up. Share it with your friends who like my rants, and I'll be back with more great content soon.